In the House, it is the one, the only Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Gallo. I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here today.
You're looking tan, and ready to go.
Oh, really? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've been working outside. My wife has decided the yard is insufficient to her standards, and I've had to get out there and get it looking good. So that's maybe I picked up a little bit of a tan.
Just think how smart she is. She's helped her husband with exercise and vitamin D.
Oh,
she's got it all together. She's taking care of you.
I think she's trying to collect on that life insurance is what
No.
she's trying to do.
No. You have to look at it in the positive way. It is. It's summer now. We're moving into the last quarter, very slowly but surely. The little tidbits of information coming through a little bit later on that the session will begin before you know it. It'll be without Philip Gunn. How are you feeling? Have you had any second thoughts since making that announcement?
No, I think the timing was right, and I'm very proud of some of the things we've done over the last 12 years. I believe that the House is poised to continue to do some great things, and I guess anytime you transition like that, you want to believe that you left the house in order or your business in order, whatever it is that you're leaving behind. You want to make sure you left it in good shape. I feel confident we're at that point. I trust the people who are going to continue on, and hope they'll continue to do some of the good things that we started.
You expect a large turnover there, or is it going to be basically just adding a few new people?
It's normally anywhere from 20 to 25 people as far as new people coming in. Every cycle you have about 12 to 15 who retire for various reasons. Yeah. And so you've got 12 to 15 open seats probably. I haven't counted them. I'm just saying that's normally the cycle. And then you'll have a few incumbents that will get beat, and so you end up anywhere for the new freshman class of somewhere between 20 and 25 normally. Some years have been higher than that, but it's usually at least that many.
Phil, any summer meetings, transition meetings, planning meetings going on for 2024 ahead of the 2024 legislative session?
I think the focus right now is on elections. Primaries are coming up in August, and I think everybody's focused on those elections. For those who don't have opponents, they are obviously focused on their own pieces of legislation, trying to get those in shape. But I think most people are focused right now on primaries.
It is to a point where it's got to be a little bit less of a more relaxing summer in between these election cycles now that you don't have to campaign. It's got to be a little bit different.
Yes, sir. And I'm turning my focus to other endeavors and trying to evaluate what my next step will be. And that's kind of where I'm spending most of my attention. But I do also have good friends in the House, and like I said, I want to make sure the House continues to do the good things that we started. So I do have an interest in making sure that those who are in the House get reelected, and we can continue to put good conservatives in place.
Your involvement this summer, the same as it last summer, but because you're not going to be Speaker next year, is it less?
It's different. You know, as a Speaker, last year I felt responsible for putting forward legislation and making sure that we had an agenda and that we pushed that agenda forward. Yeah. That's not going to be my responsibility next January. So I'm trying to be supportive of those who are going to take over and make sure that they can be successful. But I'm also not out in front leading the effort, because I'm not going to be there in January to implement whatever they decide to do.
July 1st, around the corner, a few days off, begins the new calendar year for the government of the state of Mississippi. That's when all the laws passed by the 2023 session.
Correct. And
signed by the governor, of course, become law. Any of those stand out to you? Because we have some pretty big bills in the last few years.
Yeah, we have. And as you rightly point out, July 1 begins the fiscal year. Most, I would say 95% of the bills that we pass have an effective date of July 1. just because that coincides with the fiscal year. Some bills, however, have an immediate effective date. Some bills we've deemed to be much more urgent. And a great example is the transgender bill we passed back in January. I think it was House Bill 1125. That had an immediate effective date. So as soon as the governor signed that bill, it became law, because we wanted to protect minors against these transgender surgeries that were taking place. That's just one example of a bill that had an immediate effective date. But most all the rest of them do go into effect on July 1. One of the main focuses of the House last year was in response to the overturning of Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
And I created a commission on life, which we set out to pass a number of bills that would hopefully enhance the family unit. I've got a poll here that I thought was interesting that came out, 2 or 3 months ago. We didn't have this poll last year when we started on our efforts, but it was done by the Magnolia Tribune and Mason-Dixon poll, and it showed the top priorities for Republicans and the top priorities for Democrats. And on the Republican list, the number one was protecting family values. These are Republicans in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Well, the Commission on Life that we formed set out to do a number of things to protect family values, enhance the family unit, strengthen the family unit, protect these children who previously might have been aborted, but now hopefully are not going to be aborted. And the bills that we passed were right in line with that. So I felt very affirmed and encouraged, and the priorities that we had unknowingly lined up with the priorities of Republicans in Mississippi, which I think is a good sign. That shows that we're in tune with what Republicans in Mississippi desire. So we passed, I think I counted 10 or 11 different bills that are designed to strengthen the family unit, protect life, protect children. Those go into effect July 1. And if you don't hear me say anything else today, hear me say this. The one that we passed I think is going to have the biggest impact is the tax credit for pregnancy resource centers. We had one abortion clinic in the state prior to the overturning of Roe versus Wade, but we have 37 pregnancy resource centers that exist around this state. They are all the way from Corinth to Biloxi, and I have spoken at both of them in the last month. They exist for the purpose of helping women who find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy. What do? They show up, they present themselves to these places, and what are my options? I'm pregnant, I didn't plan to be. These are both married and unmarried women. What help is available to me? And these centers exist for the purpose of guiding those women through that process. We passed a bill in 2022 that gave a $3.5 million tax credit to businesses who donate to these pregnancy resource centers in support of their operations. That's been a huge hit. And these businesses who are pro-life in mindset, they step up, they provide money to these pregnancy resource centers in support of their operations, support the women, give them resources, and help them as they navigate through this pregnancy. We increased that tax credit from $3.5 to $10 million this year. So effective July 1, we have a $10 million tax credit available to businesses who can donate to these centers, receive a dollar-for-dollar tax credit from the state of Mississippi. It is a no-brainer. I think these businesses, the way this works is you're a business, you owe money to the state of Mississippi. You're going to pay this money. You need to embrace this. This is not a contribution over and above what you normally owe. It's not a donation. This is money that you're going to be out of pocket. This is a tax liability you owe to the state of Mississippi. But what we have said is you can give up to half of that to one of these pregnancy resource centers, and we will give you credit for that. It's a wonderful way to incentivize a private sector solution to a public problem. And we've also increased that number for individuals, too, which we can talk about when we come back.
Let's do that. I think the Achilles heel in this one is that do enough people know about these centers? Certainly from all aspects of socioeconomics, from people in the lower poverty line, anybody else. Do people know enough about this and that this service is there? That's the key to it. Pregnancy resource centers. How many did you say are across the state?
37.
37 of them. Are they all under one banner and some website?
I don't believe so.
All right, more with the outgoing Speaker of the House coming up next. Live from the Trustmark Studios, it's the Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn. You know, you look at it, and I'm in reading again the book of Jim Herring's new book, The Switcher. And I was reading the history of Mississippi's modern GOP party, and I mean he's covered it all in over 600 pages in this book. But Philip Gunn will go into the history of the modern GOP party, as well as our next guest, who is Mike Retzer, as you well know, former state chairman of the Mississippi GOP. But when you guys took over, being the first Republican Speaker of the House since when?
1876.
Is that what it is, 1876?
Yes, sir.
And I think most people will agree to this, Mr. Speaker, that when you start looking at it, and I mentioned this on the air many, many times, we were on the top of the bad list and the bottom of the good list on just about everything. And we've got a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but I mean, just recently we were talking about how average income over the last 10 years has increased, almost $10,000 in Mississippi. Our education now is in the spotlight. Certainly from this past session when we gave another raise to teachers. And in industry, we just won another silver or golden shovel award for economic boosting or economic progress in the state. So lots of things have changed.
Yes, sir, and I'm glad you pointed that out, particularly in the arena of education. Mm-hmm. You know, Republicans have taken control of that issue. When we took over 12 years ago, as you rightly point out, we were just about last in every category. They are talking now nationally about the Mississippi Miracle. I have received phone calls from colleagues of mine in North Carolina, Kentucky, and Texas asking me, what have y'all done in the arena of education? We are on the floor in Kentucky right now discussing the significant progress Mississippi has made in the arena of education. How did y'all do it? We have gone from being below the national, 11 points below the national average in graduation rate to now being either at or slightly above the national average in graduation rate. Third grade reading gate has transformed education in Mississippi. What that bill said was, we passed that years ago, but it said that if you're a third grader, you got to read like a third grader. What a novel idea. How dare we expect a third grader to read like a third grader? There was wailing and gnashing of teeth. You would have thought the world was coming to an end because we dared expect a third grader to read like a third grader. Before we passed that bill, only 64% of third graders could read on the third grade level. Today, it's over 90%. That has transformed education. In an outflow of that was that 2 years ago, our fourth grade reading and math scores were number one in the country. These are just a few of the examples. And teacher pay. You rightly point out teacher pay. With the passage of the largest teacher pay raise last year, we now exceed not only the southeastern average in starting pay, but the national average in starting pay. All of these things are working together to make Mississippi move up the chart. And I haven't seen the latest rankings, but I think we are no longer, I know we're no longer last, but I think we've moved up as high as 35 in some rankings nationally on our education system. So that's one example right there. The largest tax cut in the history of the state last year positions us. That has been talked about nationally. I've been invited to speak all over the country about how we did that. How did we get the largest tax cut? And when you do that, you position yourselves to attract jobs and industry. You retain your young people. People have a reason to move here because they keep more money in their pockets, and they can have a better ability to enhance their quality of life, raise their children, give more to their churches. Those dollars turn over in the communities. Those are the types of things that you've seen happen over the last 12 years under Republican leadership that are transforming Mississippi and moving us up the ladder in a lot of different categories.
I found some commonality in the cacophony of concern from primarily the Black Caucus back in those days, because they said it was racist for you to do that. You're going to affect, you're going to just, there'll be black kids that are going to drop out and you're ruining their education, et cetera, et cetera. Some commonality between that and 1020. Recently from the Black Caucus saying that this is racist, also trying to protect the people of the city of Jackson regardless of their ethnicity. And I don't know if that skipped about a lot of people, but it was kind of the same concern. but the reason for the legislation was the well-being of the people, regardless of their race or age or gender or anything else.
That's exactly right, and all of those concerns and fears have not proven to be true. Every objection that they have voiced in the arena of education has proven to be not true. The results speak for themselves, and I think 1020 is another example. It was purely an attempt on behalf of the legislature to help right the ship in the city of Jackson.
Do you wish there was enough momentum? Maybe you don't. I'm not sure. Do you wish there was enough momentum to do what all the other states are doing? And last year, in the legislative chambers across the nation, it snowballed, offering school choice. Do you think there will come a time in the state of Mississippi, in the environment that we are in, that will offer school choice, even to the point of just between public schools?
I think we have to continue to look at that. Yes, sir. And as you know, one of the very first things, you may not remember, but the first year I was speaker, maybe it was the second year I was speaker, we pushed forward a charter school bill. That's the longest debate in the history of the Mississippi legislature. It was almost a 12-hour debate. Started at 2:30 in the afternoon and finished, I think, about 1 o'clock in the morning. And the Democrats opposed that like it was life and death. And I think they had 19 amendments. They asked questions for 6 hours, and you would have thought this was the most evil thing that could ever be hatched. But we got that charter school bill passed back in 2012 or 2013, I think it was. I do believe school choice is something we've got to continue to look at. Just as a parent, I think we ought to give the parents the right to send their kids to the best educational system that is available, and if that means giving them opportunity to go wherever they want, then they need to have that choice.
Is that something you can include in orientation for those 15 to 20 to 25 new members coming in, the power of the educational lobby, the administrative lobby in the state?
Yes, I think they've got to realize that it's not as something to be feared. And I think if the education community will agree with us that the goal of education is to educate kids, not to be an employment agency, not to be turf protection, but if we all come together and say, we want to give our kids the best education that is available to them. Yeah,
but they've gotten away from that for a long time.
They've got to get back to it, though.
Yeah, I understand. How do you do that, though, with the power they have? Like the parents' campaign.
You've got to have the courage. You just got to have the courage to rise up and say, we're going to pass charter schools, even though y'all have opposed this. We're going to do these things.
Are you a little bit disappointed at the number of charter schools? Because we had an interview on not too long ago talking about we should have been a lot further advanced than we are.
Yes, sir. I think we should have more. That was designed, of course, to put those schools in areas where the education is insufficient. The current public education is insufficient. I wish we had seen more of them pop up in those areas, and we may yet, but I would like to see more. I don't even know how many we got right now, 7 or 8, but I wish we had more,
I just want to ask you this. What do you think a Democrat winning the governor's office would, with a House and Senate Republican and House and Senate in Republican hands, what would a Democrat winning the governor's office mean to the legislative process in our state?
Well, you got to look at. I think we see this in Washington too. The override, the possibilities of override. I think Republicans over the last 12 years have clearly staked out their priorities, which don't always align with the Democrat priorities. If you had a Democrat governor, he presumably would veto many of the legislative items that a Republican legislature would pass. To override that, you would have to have a 2/3 vote. Now, currently in the Senate in Mississippi, they have over 2/3 Republicans. So theoretically, if all the Republicans stayed together, they could vote to override a governor veto.
Just anything, all of them. Any of them.
That's correct. Yeah. But we don't have that in the House. We have a supermajority, but we don't have a 2/3. And so there would be enough, assuming, of course, theoretically all the Democrats stayed together, they could thwart and prevent an override, which would put a lot of power in that governor's hands.
We see in some states where that happened, and I think we've seen it in the history not too far away, the history not too far in the past history, where when that happens, sometimes they use that position to promote more the Democrat Party than they do the state, and that's
it strengthens
at the end of the day. That's serious.
It strengthens the Democrat Party.
Yes, it does. Final thoughts from the Speaker of the House coming up next. There were some angry people. This is the world of politics, and you know it well. Some angry people because they found out that Michael Guest had voted present on the Adam Schiff censure. And Congressman Guest is going to get, it's kind of a last-minute thing, but he'll join me coming up at 8:30. The reason, he says, is all the members of the Ethics Commission voted present simply because there was in the resolution the possibility of a hearing in the Ethics Committee. So him as chairman and the committee members, so they wouldn't prejudice themselves, had to vote, and I say had, I'm not sure how solid that is, had to vote present, just so that they wouldn't tint or tinge the hearings should they happen. Makes sense to me, but you and I are politically more knowledgeable than some people out there. But it's one of the hazards of Congress. When you go by these things called procedures and all of a sudden they bite you, you got to let the public know what's going on.
Well, I'm not familiar with the rules of the Congress. I don't know what they require or demand, and certainly not familiar with the rules of the Ethics Committee of Congress. So I guess I'll just have to let him speak to that on
Well,
his,
it'd be the
on
same
his own.
thing as a lawyer, you knowing what you can say, what you can't say during a gag order, or what a judge can or cannot say during a regular interview. So I guess it's along the same lines.
I would assume. I don't know.
All right. That being said, in your aforementioned statement where you are spending some time just trying to figure out what your next step is going to be, does that means, I guess you're talking about politics, not so much private practice.
Well, there are...
but, I mean, you still have that.
Yes, sir. There are a number of options that are available to me, and I'm considering what each of those are. Some of those are in the political world. I believe I have more to give there. Certainly have enjoyed the time I have served and have great concern about our future as a state and as a country. I think that there are people who are trying to push us in a wrong direction. The increase of wokeism, of socialism, of communism, all these things. These people are trying to push us in directions that this country does not need to go, which will undo this country, will destroy this country. The cultural pressures that seem to be prevailing upon us. I have great concern for my children and my grandchildren, the future that they are going to have. I want to make sure that we leave our state and our country in as best possible posture for them to succeed. The spending that seems to be out of control has great concern for me. I think over the last 12 years, I'm very proud of the record we've had in Jackson of controlling spending. We have made a pledge we would not spend more than we have to spend, and we've stayed within that, to the point that we're in the best financial shape we've ever been in the state of Mississippi. And that's not just opinion. The numbers bear that out. We have not had to do a bond bill the last 2 years because we had enough money in the bank. So there's got to be some reining in of all these things, and I'm going to be considering where I can serve the best to help all those things.
I just thought it funny, and I just wanted your take on, there was one of the liberal media, one of the few left liberal medias in the state of Mississippi, chastised the state legislature for the over amount of money that we had, the underestimating the budget. I don't know if you saw that article, but they were
they believe we should spend every dime that we have.
That's it.
And not save any and be very cautious. I mean, how many people, we know everybody who does that, be it in business, be it in your own personal home, if you don't prepare for the unknown and hold back resources and have a little money in the bank, you're going to get into financial trouble.
Especially in these days and times as we are across the globe.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it was it's interesting, and I hope people catch on to that.
I hope they do too, because we have level funded the budget, we have filled the rainy day fund, we have put money towards the retirement system, we have given the largest tax cut in the state's history, we have given the largest teacher pay raise in the history, we have not had to do a bond bill in the last 2 years, and we still got to be $1 billion in the bank. That's financial responsibility. That's fiscal responsibility right there. And they would have us blow it all and have nothing left for those unknowns. So
that's why they're so proud of California that had what was it, $121 billion surplus, and now they're something like $40 or $50 billion in the hole
sir.
within a 12-month period.
That's what that kind of strategy leads to. It's exactly
I do
right.
want to ask you this as we almost run out of time here, and again, Speaker of the House Philip Gunn. Is there a comfort level, just like an NFL quarterback getting out of retiring, or a coach? Is there a comfort level of how long before that decision is made in politics or whatever it happens to be? 3 or 4 months, 2 years? What? I know somewhere you have a personal comfort level before that decision is going to be made. So give us a pretty accurate reading.
I don't know. I don't know, Paul. Seriously, I'm trying to seek guidance from the Lord. As you know, that is an important part of my life.
Well, in the meantime, you got more time to go out and do some skeet shooting and become a better dove hunter.
I need to be a better dove hunter. You're
yes,
right. I cannot
absolutely.
You have witnessed my inability to get a dove.
I mean, even when you gave them to me, it was only 2. Come on. Thank you, man. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.